Welcome to today's conversation on leadership post-COVID, the art and science of resilience. My background is corporate HR and I've worked with leaders across 26 countries. I've had the privilege of working with CEOs, entrepreneurs, high potential talent, freelancers, students. And there is something that makes people resilient. Today, I hope to be able to offer insights and some techniques that will help you master the science and art of resilience. Now, some of you might be wondering why we're having a conversation around this topic today. There are two reasons. One, resilience is a word that's becoming quite popular. But the question is, what is it? Is it a habit? Is it an idea? Is it a choice? Is it a word? Or is it something that you master? My suggestion that it is something that you need to master, not just the art, but the science. And let me ask you a question that will help you decode it even further. Is leadership a science or an art? Now, I hear many of you, even though I really can't hear it at this moment of you, but I hear some of you mentally saying, perhaps it's a science, perhaps it's an art, perhaps it's both. And you would be right if you said perhaps it's both. But the question is, what aspect of it is a science and what aspect of it is an art? I've authored a book called The Brilliance Quotient, which talks about the science and art of leadership. I also am a leadership accelerator and I work with leaders on helping them master the science and art of leadership. Today, I'm going to take a leaf out of that book and that executive coaching and offer you an insight on how you can master the science and art of resilience. Because all of us need to be able to understand this in depth. We are all going through difficult times, we understand it. However, some of us are going to come out to be winners. The question is who and how. And the time is now, because when we are experiencing disruption, as we are at this moment of time, it is the best training ground for all of us on the topic of resilience. You know, when I say that when you have had life-changing experiences, then you have learned the most or grown most as an individual. So that's the second reason why we want to use this opportunity to help you master the art and science of resilience. Disruption is the best playground to master it. So those are the two reasons why we want to talk about this topic. Now, in the trade show, you're going to be having loads of conversations on business, connecting with individuals. And I really hope that you take the next 25 minutes of your time to be focusing on this important life skill and business skill, because with this, you'll be able to lead yourself, your teams, and businesses with far greater success and less stress and in less time, such as the power when you master the science and art of resilience. So let's get cracking. This is going to be a live conversation in the sense it's not going to be too much of theory. I'm going to be asking you questions. So even though you might not get a chance to respond to me live, I want you to think about the answers because then you'll get full benefit out of today's conversation. Okay, so you can see a slide right now in front of you. And in that slide, you can see that there are certain bullet points that I put down. I want you to be able to read through those bullet points and mentally answer to yourself, did I experience this in the last 1 month, 1 week, 2 months, 1 year? Did you feel that sense of being stressed and frustrated? And all of us are experiencing it today with pandemic and COVID and with so many issues around us that I can't even start listing them out, right? Do you sometimes feel that you're blocked from really succeeding in your goals, whether it was during COVID or even pre-COVID? Do you find that sometimes you just don't have that sense of purpose or motivation and you're asking yourself the question, what am I doing? What is my purpose? What am I going to do with my business, with my life? Do you sometimes feel that confidence drops? Do you feel angry and irritated? Do you feel exhausted and burnout? Do you sometimes have lots of ideas, but you find that you're unable to put them into action? If you mentally said yes to one or some of them, or indeed all of them, You are not alone. Research has shown that all of us experience some, if not all, of these aspects in some moment of our life. Truth be told, with the last few months, we are experiencing this even more, and even the people around us. So, this is natural what we are experiencing. But we know that we don't want to be experiencing this. And when you master the science and art of resilience, you will be able to move out of it quite seamlessly once you practice the techniques. Let me ask you another question. On another slide that is in front of you, you can see again certain bullet points. And my question to you is, would you want to experience this instead? Do you want to experience more wealth? Whether it is more money or a sense of abundance. Would you like to be in a position whereby you have new ideas, new perspectives? Resilience is all about being able to adapt and come up with new ideas, right? You're that state of mind whereby you know that you're going to adapt and you're going to come up with a creative solution. And business leaders need that. Post-COVID leadership is all about being able to adapt and change. Would you like to be able to do that? Would you like to be able to do all that you want to do in business and experience the sense of happiness and being fulfilled in both your professional and personal goals? Would you want to know that you're playing your A game all the time? And A game is all about being the best version of who you are all the time. Would you want to be confident, especially when times are difficult? Would you like to have boundless energy, less stress and more energy? And again, chances are that you have answered yes to some, if not all of them. And again, when you master the science of an art of resilience, you will be able to experience all of this. So let's deep dive into the conversation. And I'm going to give you some insights that I share as part of Plenary Academy, which I have co-founded and which is basically a 6-week program for entrepreneurs around the world, where we help them raise their game. And I'm going to be talking about one of the topics we covered, which is mastering the science and art of resilience. So stay with me. Let's get into the science. Right. Let's get into the science of resilience. Now, I know that you're seeing a lot of words out there, so stay with me. You can see catabolic on one side, anabolic on the other side, and I promise you I'm going to go through all of the words that are on this slide. But stay with me for a second. As human beings, we all need energy, right? We need energy to do things, whether it is to make a decision, whether it is to get up in the morning and make breakfast, whether it is to put in our time and effort to complete a project, whether it is to drive to work. We basically need energy. And the energy that we experience as human beings is in a spectrum, or at least I want you to visualize it in a spectrum. It's not really in a spectrum. There are different kinds of reactions that happen inside the body. But to make sense of it, I want you to think about it in a spectrum, right from catabolic to anabolic. All of this gives energy for us to be able to do things. So call it catabolic energy or anabolic energy. When we are experiencing catabolic energy, what happens at a physiological level inside your body is that cells are breaking, molecules are breaking to release chemicals known as adrenaline and cortisol. You can see 1 and 2 mentioned under there. And you've heard about these words before, adrenaline and cortisol. This is what creates what we call the fight, flight, freeze syndrome. It is that instant energy that the body needs to be able to do something as a quick reaction. You know that you're experiencing catabolic energy when you're angry. So somebody says something to you or somebody comes to attack you and you get angry. It's a quick reaction. It's a fight reaction that takes place. Or when you're frustrated, or when you find that you are criticizing or being criticized and you move into that situation where you complain or you're blaming somebody or when you're judging somebody. When you're experiencing any of these aspects, when you're fearful, when you're anxious, when you're stressed, all of that is catabolic energy that is being released in your body because your body needs instant chemicals and hormones to pump up energy to do things. That's catabolic energy. So far with me? Now, on the other side of the spectrum is what we call anabolic energy. When the body at a physiological level, molecules are coming together to release hormones known as dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin. Again, you can see those mentioned on the blue side of the slide as 1, 2, 3. And you've heard about these words before. You know that you're experiencing anabolic energy when you're feeling joyful, peaceful, harmony, in the flow, assured, confident, clear, having new perspectives. Because when you're relaxed, you can have more perspectives. When you're anxious, you cannot. When you're fearful, you are unable to have new perspectives, right? So you know you're experiencing anabolic energy, and at that moment in time, the physiological reaction is these are the hormones that are coursing through your body. Now, as individuals, we experience both spectrums of energy, anabolic and catabolic. But as you can imagine, anabolic energy is a constructive physiological reaction. And when you experience all of those things, you're far more motivated. You come up with new ideas. You're in the flow. You're playing your A game. Remember that slide which had all of those things that we want? When you come up with more creative ideas, that's anabolic energy. And on the other side, catabolic, because it's a destructive mechanism, even at a physiological level, and there's too much of adrenal or cortisol buildup that takes place in the body, it starts creating problems such as burnout, fatigue, exhaustion. Think about all of those things that we said that we experience when you're stressed. That's what's catabolic energy. So for you to be able to be more resilient, to be able to come up with more perspectives, to be more adaptable, you need to do two things. One is be able to A, be aware when you're experiencing catabolic energy, and B, know the mechanism where you can shift so that you can start experiencing anabolic energy. And is that even possible? Yes, it is. That's where the art of resilience comes in. So the science of resilience is to be able to operate more with anabolic energy, because when you do, then you come up with new ideas and new perspectives and are able to lead yourself, your teams, and business with far more success, with far more gravitas, much more calmly, and playing your A game and helping them play their A game. So that's the science bit about it. What's the art, you ask me? And here is a slide that explains it out. And again, stay with me as I lay out the slide on what is the art of resilience, or how to develop what we call mental resilience and be more creative while reducing stress levels, as the slide suggests. So you can see that there's a picture of a lady with a camera, and there's a reason why I've done this. So I want you to think about that our brain is like a camera. At any moment of time, our brain is scanning through the horizon and taking pictures and making sense of what we are experiencing or what we might be feeling. So if you think about it, if you're hopeful or excited, or you see something and you get excited and you feel that sense of excitement or happiness, your mind gives it a meaning of saying, oh, actually, I'm meeting up my mother, or your boyfriend or girlfriend or spouse or child, or you've got a promotion, or you've got a deal, or you've been able to overcome a problem that you're experiencing, right? You feel that thing and your mind makes sense of it, right? So it's like a camera. There's a filter that's used and you make sense of the world around yourself. On the other side, I want you to think about as another example, I want you to think about when you're angry, or you're anxious, or you're stressed, a job loss has taken place, or an investor has pulled out money, or a deal that you thought was going to go through is no longer going through, or you are experiencing someone in your family who's ill, or you are ill. You're going to experience all that catabolic energy. And again, what the mind does is it makes sense of it. It gives it a meaning that makes you think, oh, these are difficult times, and therefore I'm anxious as well. So the meaning that your mind gives to an emotion that you experience happens in what we call in the world of neuroscience, which is one of the topics we cover up in the Plenary Academy. In the world of neuroscience, we say that's the sense that your brain is making in that part of the brain called the PFC, the prefrontal cortex. That's what gives meaning to what you're experiencing. But here's the interesting bit. You go through life experiences which are different to me. My background has been different to you, is different to someone else. So all of us decode life in a different way. And therefore, our brain is like a filter. If you in a camera, if you used a blue filter, everything would look blue. If you used a red filter, everything would look red. So therefore, if I'm using a filter which says the glass is half empty, everything will look half empty. If I'm going to use a filter that says the glass is half full, I will start experiencing all of that anabolic reaction and come up with new perspective. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the art of resilience, where you start becoming aware what are the filters that my mind is using to decode the world around me. And if you can be A, aware of it, B, if you can change it, or indeed be able to stop what we call in the world of neuroscience, your reflex reaction through what we call a circuit breaker, then you can find an opportunity to reframe what you're seeing around yourself. Now, I know that I've covered three concepts rather quickly, so let me cover it up step by step. One is be aware what is triggering off a catabolic reaction. And the way I want you to do it is remembering an acronym, GAIL. I call it GAILS. G is a gremlin. G is that little voice inside us, which is a critic, the inner critic, which is always telling us that we're not good enough. And it says it in different ways. It might say, don't do this, why bother? You will never be a success. Or maybe it shows up like a perfectionist of saying, you haven't done it as well as you think you could be. There's an inner critic inside us. And when that voice is speaking out inside our mind, it acts as a filter and stops us from being confident. That's G. A is assumption. Because something happened in the past in a particular way, we assume it's going to happen again. So for example, if I went to a presentation with a client and I fumbled and made a mistake and the client cut short the meeting or did not give me that deal, I might think it's going to happen again. So I assume failure is going to happen. And I use an assumption as a filter. Again, it can release catabolic energy and make me not confident and not motivated enough. I is interpretation. As I was talking about, we all interpret life in a particular way. But your interpretations could be different to mine of that same situation. Why? Because your life experiences could be different to mine. So as I was talking about it, you might look at the glass and say glass half empty, and I might say half full or vice versa. But we're looking at that same glass, right? And the truth could be it's just a glass of water. Yet you think and you hold on to your interpretation, and I hold on to my interpretation thinking it's the truth. But the truth could be something else altogether. So why should we hold on to an interpretation? So when we do hold on to an interpretation, it's another filter. The last, L. So I've talked about gremlin, assumption, interpretation, and L is limiting belief. The world around us, the society, authority figures, teachers, parents, when we were growing up, said that there's certain things that can be done and certain things cannot be done. So there are gales that limit the way that we can react. It limits the choices that we can make. It releases catabolic energy. And for a moment, I want you to take this learning from a personal front, that by asking yourself, where in the world around you are you experiencing gales? What's the inner critic voice that's talking within your business? What are the assumptions that your team is making or you're making? What are the interpretations that we are making of the current situation post-COVID? What are the limiting beliefs? I mean, we thought that business could never happen virtually, and here we're part of a virtual trade show, and maybe that's the norm going forward, right? So be aware of what are the filters that are being used. The second aspect that I talked about was circuit breaker. Now, when we are experiencing these various catabolic reactions that I've just been talking about, the way the brain works is that it doesn't really give thought to what you're thinking. And what do I mean by that? Our brain is an efficient organ, not an intelligent organ, which means that when we are growing up, each time we saw something for the first time, our brain processed, made sense of it, created a storyboard, and stored it in your mind. So that the next time it happened, you weren't going through the processing time again. It needed to be efficient because as it grew up, there were so many new stimuli that was hitting us, right? And in fact, right now, there's so many stimuli that are hitting you. But what your mind is doing to be efficient, it takes within milliseconds. It considers the stimuli, which might be an action, reaction, color, picture, situation. It decodes it and it creates a reaction, i.e., creates an energetic response that we were talking about. That's what we call the reflex neural pathways that get created within our mind, within our brains. So while you might be theoretically aware that there's certain things that make you angry or feeling stuck or anxious, the brain is so quick to react that you don't get a chance to actually change it in the moment. So therefore, once you start becoming aware of what are your reactions, we say create a circuit breaker, which means stop that instant reaction. And in the first few times that you do, when you're angry or feeling stuck or having self-doubt, you might do it after the event, which is fine. Because soon with practice, you will be in a position whereby you'll be able to make the change in the moment. That's the coaching that we do to people. And when you do, then you can instantly move from catabolic to anabolic reaction. And when you are having an anabolic reaction within yourself, you will be more happy, you'll be more calm, you'll be more excited, you'll be more centered, you'll come up with new perspective, you'll be far more resilient as an individual. So awareness, being able to practice with circuit breakers, and the last is to reframe, i.e. come up with a new way or a new interpretation of that situation. When you start practicing this process that I've laid out to you, you will start experiencing resilience, being more creative, having less stress, all of those things that we all want in life. Now, I know that's a lot that we have covered, but I hope that this has made sense to you. It's all about anabolic, catabolic energy, being aware what triggers it off. That's the science of it. And once you know what's triggering off, i.e. your thinking process, being able to master it by creating a sense of awareness, creating circuit breakers, and coming out with new thinking processes. And when you do, you start embedding a new mindset and you start experiencing mental resilience. I hope that has made a lot of sense. And if not, I'm available for more questions. Please do ask me now or drop me a line at reena@thecollaborators.org or simply hello@reenadayal.com. I look forward to hearing from you, and I hope that this little insight is going to help you lead yourself, your teams, and businesses with far more success. I wish you good luck, and I wish you great leadership post-COVID by mastering the science and art of resilience. Bye for now.